there will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All lies will be exposed.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Just when I thought I could have a day off because of a busy weekend of doing notes and work and contacting people and trying to do interviews and everything else in between. Oh, hey, turns out there's a little bit of a spicy war that's going on because of the action of the administration on what they did on a rare Saturday day off. You know what I realized? Every time I think I can have a day off, oh, no. Where do you think you're going, Kit Kat? Welcome to Hard Lens Media, folks. Now, obviously, I know that all of this is still developing, and I know that there are reports about U.S. fighter jets that are right now being scrambled right now. I want to at least wait to see what is happening with that as that story develops. However, a beginning is a very delicate time, so I think it's only important for us to really address what is happening right now. And this is the breaking news that did take place that happened at least about an hour ago, at least around 2 hours ago, to be more fair. So let's go and pull up this video here and discuss the Iranian missiles that were heading towards the U.S. base in Qatar. Well, I think we've all seen the videos right now as it stands. No one has been injured or maimed, but hey, this is war. Donald Trump, did you honestly really think that if you were going to bomb another country while another country was at war with it, clearly indicating that we have an alliance with them now? I mean, of course, it's always been said that we're allies with Israel, but did you not expect them to retaliate back? This is right now the beginning stages of, dare I say it, maybe Iran actively now targeting U.S. military bases. How much more are we, the United States, going to be involved in this? As I've said before on the two previous live streams, the first one on Saturday with Keaton from Due Dissidence, and then on Sunday with Nick Thompson and Larry Sharp. I want to thank them too for their time because, again, that was such a short notice to be on the show. It is abundantly clear to us that this war is not going to be ending tomorrow. Just because you punch somebody in the mouth and kick them in the balls doesn't mean they'll accept your friend request right away. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's pull this up here.
Kaylee, significant intelligence warnings focused on Qatar right now, where the U.S. has its largest air base in the Middle East. Concerns that Iran will fire short or medium-range cruise and ballistic missiles or swarming drones at the U.S. base at Al Udeid. Satellite images show that the U.S. moved most of their unhangared aircraft out of Al Udeid last week, but still this could be a tempting target for Iranian retaliation. Embassies across Doha, the capital, have ordered their workers and their employees evacuated, and for those who remain to shelter in place, the threat appears to be imminent. From a technical standpoint, the military part of this operation on Saturday went flawlessly. 7 B-2 bombers took off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and traveled east, while another 2 traveled west over the Pacific, serving as a decoy. The B-2s can be seen on takeoff and landing, but were so stealth, the Iranian air defenses never saw them. 125 U.S. warplanes were involved in the strike, including F-22 and F-35 escorts, 75 precision-guided weapons fired by the U.S. at Iran's 3 nuclear sites.
The fourth and fifth-generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats.
The B-2s took off from Missouri at 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning. 18 hours later, 12 massive ordnance penetrator bunker buster bombs dropped by 6 B-2 bombers on the main enrichment site in Fordo. A 7th B-2 bomber dropped 2 30,000-pound bombs on the underground uranium enrichment site at Natanz. Lastly, 30 Tomahawk missiles fired from an Ohio-class submarine 400 miles away landed at Isfahan. It is much too early to say what the bomb damage assessment at Isfahan, with its hardened tunnels some 600 feet deep, really were. Current and former Pentagon officials think the program was likely set back by 1 to 2 years, but no one knows where the highly enriched uranium actually is. 900 pounds of it, enough for 9 nuclear bombs. It could have been moved or could be buried, we're told. There is little doubt that the U.S. will now face a retaliatory strike from Iran. After the U.S. military killed General Qasem Soleimani in 2020, it took Iran 10 days to fire ballistic missiles at U.S. bases in Iraq. But this time it may come a lot sooner.
I want to pause here for a second because there's a little bit more to this video. But to the diehard MAGA, especially to those who are still going to bat for Donald Trump. Look, I learned a horrible lesson with Bernie Sanders. And yes, even Justice Democrats in brand new Congress. I'll own up to it, okay? And it's an L that I'll have to carry. Hell, I even defended Tulsi Gabbard when she was being smeared, okay? Now, when she was being smeared in 2020, I mean, those were clear attacks. And it took a lot of courage for her back in the day to stand up against the DNC as well as run for president during the 2020 Democratic primary. But the thing is, you can't make heroes out of your politicians. They'll always crap in your hat. I mean, I'm from Chicago. They do it all the time. These are clearly vindictive, sociopathic individuals. And yes, I'm going to even include Bernie Sanders in this. And while he's going rah-rah-rah anti-war, if the man actually had a nutsack to stand up against a DNC, who knows where we would be. But then again, that's a story for another day. He actively joined Israel with the bombing of these 3 nuclear sites. Now, we have all, especially us millennials, but hey, boomers, Gen Xers, and now you, Gen Z, we've all lived under the shadow of the imminent threat of World War III. But it's time to get serious here, folks. It doesn't look like things are going to be de-escalating anytime soon. 6 months into his presidency, and here we are. We're not even done with his first year. Here we are with potential conflict. And now that these missiles have been struck at a U.S. base, and again, no one's been hurt, but now the U.S. has to respond. So that means the U.S. is going to strike an Iranian air base, power plants, military centers, government buildings. What will be the targets? Because as it stands, like, we got a lot of bases in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, in Iraq, in United Arab Emirates. The list goes on and on and on. There's now talk about Bahrain being under attack as well. There's a lot of targets that Iran can strike at, but then in turn, is this the excuse the U.S. needs to continue bombing into Iran? You know, this whole war, starting in October of 2023, we have to remember, before all this talk about Gaza and the genocide, before Assad was toppled off and now has asylum in Russia, before Lebanon and anything else, remember, Netanyahu had a lot of problems domestically. I mean, the man's government was falling apart. And what better way than to, stay in power than have a wag the dog moment? Okay, maybe for a lot of people, Wag the Dog is too much of a low reference kind of movie, but it's a good movie nonetheless. So maybe I'll just keep it more in simple terms. What better way to maintain power and absolute control than be like Emperor Palpatine and manipulate the Clone Wars like how he did? Let's continue on.
Haley?
Jen, quick question for you, because I'm reading reports about the airspace being closed above Al Udeid Air Base there. Was there any effort to disperse troops ahead of this moment? Because 10,000 U.S. troops is a highly concentrated number of U.S. troops in one place.
We don't have any details, but I can assure you that troops and embassy personnel have been dispersed, and the family members of those troops and embassy members were sent home in the last week. Also, we can report that many of those, we had satellite imagery showing that many of the planes that were at Al Udeid, the U.S. warplanes, they had been moved. You couldn't see them on the tarmac last week, but still a very tempting target symbolically and otherwise for the Iranians, and certainly closing the airspace over Qatar. It's clear that other embassies, as well as the Qatar itself, has this same intelligence.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Now there's a little bit more. I want to bring in another perspective here as well. Let's share this tab here and pull up this video.
And Ian, we're now hearing from the Qatari Defense Ministry. They say that the Qatari Air Defense has successfully intercepted a missile attack targeting Al Udeid Air Base. Again, that is the largest U.S. air base in the Middle East. This news from Qatar comes after Iran had announced that it had launched that attack. I want to bring in our chief foreign affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz. Martha, you've spent a lot of time in this region. What do you make of this announcement now from the Qataris saying that they successfully intercepted this attack? And what does that mean for future retaliation?
Well, I've actually...
All right. Listen. I understand, thanks to the propaganda of corporate media and our politicians, Democrats and Republicans, about the fear-mongering of Iran. But remember, if we are going to be serious people here and talk about the news, then we must repeat ourselves again and do a little bit of a rewind in history. Why is there a religious government in Iran? I mean, why is it that they seem to call us the great Satan? Why is it that they seem to hate? Or is it that have a lot of suspicion around us? Because hate's a strong word, right? Just to use some of that liberal woke ideology BS. Why? Why are things the way they are? It's not just one day they woke up and said, you know what? We're going to have this religious government here. We're going to be a little bit antagonistic. No problems. Everything will be A-okay, all right. That's not how things work. That's Saturday morning cartoon logic, okay? There once was a national government in Iran. Potentially, it could have been maybe a democracy, a constitutional republic, something of that nature. We don't know. We may never know. And they had the audacity of doing something for their people. Now, no such thing as perfect. We could sit here and ponder and go, what if, however long we want. And I love what if. I mean, when Marvel does a what if story, I'm like, what if? But what if it was allowed to flourish? Well, one of their policies was to use their natural resources to uplift their people out of poverty, which, hey, all right. Sounds like a good idea. Seems pretty much rational. And after all, they're a sovereign country. Whatever Iran's going to do and the people, hey, that's up to them. I'm pretty sure we fellow Americans who founded ourselves through liberty, freedom, and a revolutionary war felt like, hey, we could govern ourselves and pretty much we want to be left alone. I think we could all get behind that. But in the 1950s, the Eisenhower administration, as well as the British government, American British oil companies, the CIA, and British intelligence worked together and toppled that said national government in Iran and replaced it with the Shah. Now, again, for everybody listening, I know I sound like a broken record, but so long as I drill it in your heads, then you guys can share it as well. And look, do your own research too. I don't care. Do your own research too. In fact, I encourage it. Look what happened. Look what we did to Iran. We couped their government. And we replaced it with the Shah. Now, you might see the picture saying, oh, this is what Iran looked like under the Shah. That's one aspect. That is one picture. One picture. One picture alone. One little picture alone. What about the rest of the picture? What about outside the big metropolitan cities? What about outside the affluent areas? Yeah, things were bad. So, I don't know what it's like to be fully desperate and in poverty. To be impoverished. I don't know. I don't know what the stakes that it would have to be for me to be truly desperate. But in an irrational situation where there's a lack of resources, desperation, and you're wondering how you're going to make it past the next hour, somebody comes along and says, hey, we're going to uplift you. Hey, this is going to be over. Hey, this is done. Hey, we're going to get rid of those bastards. You'd be surprised what people can do when they are desperate. And that's how we got the Ayatollah. That's how we got his government, and that's where we're at right now because of the actions of the United States in the 1950s. Why do you think Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex? He realized that he got played too. He got played like a sucker. Let's continue on. Because it's about saving face. Well, they have no choice but to launch their missiles back because they were attacked. And not to mention, Iran, unlike the rest of the Middle East, they were not carved up by the British Empire. Oh no, remember, the British Empire used to be a thing. After WW1, after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the official fall of it, Britain carved up the Middle East. Iran never had that happen to it. Like, they are a solid single country. They've been that way for thousands of years. They are who they are. They know what they are. They know what they're all about. I don't think the United States is prepared for the fallout of all of this. No pun intended. No pun intended indeed. Right? Let's go ahead and play the rest of this video here, shall we? Before the whole world catches on fire. And to think, I thought I could have a day off.
Issue, Diane, too. What do they do now? How do they respond going forward? It's exactly right. In 2020, it was a calibrated attack on Iraq. Ian was in Iraq at the time. I was in Iran, reporting there behind enemy lines. To what President Trump has said in the past, he has very much said.
Oh my goodness, guys! Live on air. Hold on. I might as well be a smartass about this, just in case we're vaporized. Hey, we gotta have some humor, guys. Right here, live on air. Here's what I've noticed. Breaking. I hope you see this picture. Now, I don't know how this happened or how Iran or the Iranian government were able to do this, but somehow Iran has moved itself purposely closer to U.S. bases. Look at all those bases there. How did they float that country so close? And before anyone says, kid, this is geography. That's a map. What's wrong with you? This isn't like a movie. Screw you, pal. Look at those bases. It's not like they were built there on purpose for any kind of nefarious means. What do you mean? Huh? It's not like, this was all planned. It's not like, General Wesley Clark was kind of warning us about this almost a couple of decades ago, right? So before any of you keyboard warriors even think about saying, gee, kid, stop overthinking things, then someone explain to me how Iran moves so close to U.S. bases. How dare all of you? How simply dare all of you? This is breaking news. Oh, my God.
Capability. And if they keep those missiles coming, if they aim for Iraq, if they aim for Bahrain or other bases, they're bound to have some success. And just go back to what President Trump has said in the past. He has very much said that the U.S. would respond with strength. And the U.S. and Donald Trump are certainly in a position where they would have to follow through with that threat as well.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Of course, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this. So Tehran, the capital city of Iran, has launched retaliatory strikes against U.S. military installations across the Middle East. Iran state-run media reported on Monday, Operation Herald of Victory. There's no victory in this war, guys, on both sides. Because if somebody uses a tactical nuke, hey, that's it. It's over. Unverified footage circulating online shows multiple projectiles in the skies above Qatar. Now, I would play that video, however, one, copyright music, and number two, still trying to figure out just overall what's going to be still allowed online, because I am worried about that jackbooted censorship. I've been warning people about this for quite some time, especially between 2021 and late 2023. I know I've been saying it. I just, now it's finally happened. Now I know how Ian Malcolm felt when the T-Rex escaped from the cage in Jurassic Park. I hate it when I'm right. I hate it. But there is some comments, though. Well, might as well go ahead and go overseas with this one. No justification for attack on Iran. So Israeli and U.S. hostilities, again, now we're in it. We're in it now, in deep, no pullout. It's going to be a sloppy mess. Against Iran are groundless and unjustifiable, Russian President Vladimir Putin told Iranian foreign minister. A top Iranian diplomat who landed in Moscow and met with the Russian president on Monday said earlier that the visit was needed for much closer, more precise, and more serious consultations with Russia. Let me have a sip of my coffee. You heard that right. Consultations with Russia. If it's a free consultation, oh boy. Does that mean, they're going to kind of be asking like, hey, yo, Russia, can you hook us up with some missiles? Hey, Russia, can you help a guy out here? I'm just saying this is all speculative. Maybe things will calm down just a little bit. But now the words that Larry Sharp said on the show, along with Nick Thompson, this doesn't look like it's going to explode right away. It's just like the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand in World War I, and just led up to WW1. Then came its sequel. And it looks like we've lived long enough to potentially enter the trilogy. How's your World War III story arc going? During the meeting, the Kremlin, Putin described the attacks on Iran as unprovoked aggression, for which there can be no justification. The actions of Israel and the United States are illegitimate and violate international norms, he added. The Russian leader noted that he was glad to see the Iranian diplomat in Moscow, saying that his visit would allow Russia and Iran to discuss these pressing issues and jointly think about a way out of the current situation. Please let it be diplomatically. Please let it be diplomatically. Please let it be diplomatically. Please. I just don't want to wake up one morning and, hey, you got 5 minutes to duck and cover. How wonderful. But of course, hey, don't worry, people. Don't worry, people. We got a little bit of a savant here that kind of warned us about it. AJ, tell us what's going on.
It's Monday, June 23rd, 2025. It's one of the most important video posts I've ever made. We're now in day 11 of the Israeli strikes on Iran and their counterstrikes. We are now going into the third day of the United States launching its attacks last Saturday that I predicted to the day. Here's the bottom line. President Trump said he did not want war, but he said he would never let Iran get a nuclear weapon. He said it was not about regime change, and in his speech Saturday evening, he said that he wanted peace. Then last night on Truth Social, he says, make Iran great again, that regime change is a good thing. That is designed to push the mullahs to close the Strait of Hormuz and attack U.S. bases, something they're saying they're looking strongly at doing if they will retaliate. So the Trump administration, while on one side of its mouth saying it wants peace, the other side is pushing and stoking this war for AIPAC and others. That's just a fact. And whereas I support Trump's domestic agenda and the trade agenda and all the other great things he's doing, and I've been persecuted.
Nope. Sorry, buddy. I'm going to pause you here. I only can handle that for so long. Hey, listen, MAGA. If you're anti-war, I'll work with you. Okay? The Trump administration has broken its promises, okay? Now, I want to hold on to hope. Did I think Trump would actually follow through as being anti-war? Flip of a coin. Thought he'd be a little more successful with Ukraine. I thought. Remember, never forget that he was constantly berating and yelling at Zelensky, saying, you're gambling with World War III. Well, Trump, now everyone can yell at you and say that you are gambling with World War III. And I think it's important for us to remember that it will be us, the American people, paying for this. Every single activist group, every single socialist group needs right now to go out there in the streets. Libertarians, conservatives, everybody out there in the streets calling your U.S. senator, your U.S. House representative, and supporting and standing in solidarity with probably the only person with a functioning brain at this point in Congress. And you know what? Hey, I'm at this point, I'm willing to work with anybody here. And you know, if that puts me in a bad light, fine. Fine. I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine with this. This is Representative Thomas Massie, who has recently tweeted out today, who's now under attack by the Trump administration. Our War Powers resolution has 57 co-sponsors. Whether you like it or not, Congress will be voting on U.S. hostilities in Iran. Under the War Powers Act, the president is required to withdraw from hostilities in Iran within 60 days, plus 30 days extended, unless he gets a vote of Congress. So there you go. 57 co-sponsors. So I want to see that happen. And of course, we have a couple people writing here. You got Nia Turn. There's no reason every member of Congress hasn't signed on besides being afraid of AIPAC, but that's not a good reason. To which I have to say again, everybody that is watching, everybody that is tuning in, remember what Representative Thomas Massie once said: everybody in Congress has an AIPAC, a babysitter. They all have a babysitter. They all have a babysitter. They all have a babysitter. And of course, the only person right now that seems to be having the courage to stand up to Donald Trump within his own party is Representative Thomas Massie, because real Donald Trump declared so much war on me today, it should require an act of Congress. Hashtag sassy was Massie. All right, stay sassy, man. So here's what Donald Trump wrote. Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky is not MAGA, really. Even though he likes to say he is, actually MAGA doesn't want him, doesn't know him, doesn't respect him. Childish. He is a negative force who always votes no matter how good something may be. Yeah, that big, beautiful bill going after Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, it's beautiful, right? He's a simple-minded grandstander who thinks it's good politics for Iran to have the highest level nuclear weapon, while at the same time yelling death to America at every chance they get. You know, this is like on Twitter, where you got somebody who's so easily triggered and thin-skinned, like, that person said mean things about me. I'm going to do this and blah, 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 blah. You do this all the time. You like to dish it, but you can't take it. I hate thin-skinned people like that. Thin-skinned people who got no balls or spine. Thin-skinned people who just can't take real criticism or be called out, right? Iran has killed and maimed thousands of Americans. Yes, because I'll never forget the great Iranian invasion of New York City. You remember when Iranian aircraft flew over New York City and they parachuted in? Thankfully, Chicago came in with reinforcements and gave them good quality pizza for them to leave. All right, there had to have adding in some humor, some levity. You know, I got nothing but love for NYC. You know that. They even took over the American embassy in Tehran under the Carter administration. That was in the 70s, man. Trump, what the hell? Never mind. We had a spectacular military success yesterday, taking the bomb right out of their hands, and they would use it if they could. But as usual, and despite all the praise and accolades received, this lightweight congressman is against what was so brilliantly achieved last night in Iran. Oh, yes, that's right. Brilliantly achieved. Yes, well done. Massie is weak, ineffective, and votes no on virtually everything put before him. Rand Paul Jr., no matter how good something may be, he is disrespectful to our great military and all they stand for, not even acknowledging their brilliance and bravery in yesterday's attack, which was a total, complete win. Massie should drop his fake act and start putting America first, but he doesn't know how to get there. He doesn't have a clue. He'll undoubtedly vote against the great, big, beautiful bill, even though non-passage means a 68% tax increase for everybody, and many things far worse than that. MAGA should drop this pathetic loser. Thomas Massie, like the plague. The good news is that we have a wonderful American patriot running against him in the Republican primary, and I'll be out in Kentucky campaigning really hard. MAGA is not about lazy, grandstanding, non-productive politicians, of which Thomas Massie is definitely one. Thank you to our incredible military for the amazing job they did last night. It was really special. Make America great again. Of course, yes, by making America great again, we have an atomic wasteland. But I want to play a little bit more because a while back on yesterday's show, we actually played a video of both Ro Khanna as well as Thomas Massie talking about their War Powers Resolution Act. And I'll be pulling it up here soon while we find out a little bit more about U.S. retaliatory strikes against Iran.
Anyone. Other than a reference to the president had a roughly 60-day timeline on diplomatic talks. But we also know we had more talks scheduled when Israel launched this attack. So it's not exactly clear the emergency. You will be briefed along with other members of Congress Tuesday. What are the questions you have?
Well, first of all, the tragedy in this country is that we keep entering these overseas wars. We triumphantly declare.
Never forget, Ro Khanna was on board with Ukraine, but you know what? Hey, at this point, I'll listen. If he's going to work with Thomas Massie, they're going to try something fine. Have at it.
the mission is accomplished the day after, and then we're left with Americans bearing the consequences for decades. Now, Thomas is absolutely right in showing courage. I mean, the headlines all across this country says the United States enters war with Iran. He is actually representing a lot of the people in the MAGA base, people like Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Theo Von, who has had them on, who's saying, we don't want this war. And I heard your interview with Secretary Rubio. He's saying, well, we want a peace deal. We want to make sure that Iran can enrich uranium through civil purposes. Well, we had that. We had that at the JCPOA, and there was not a single violation that the IAEA found during that time. So my question, I guess, is now you're going to force Iran to go covertly in developing this nuclear material. Now you've put American troops at risk. Now you're wasting billions of our dollars because we're sending more troops to the Middle East. What did you accomplish, and why are you oblivious to the American people who are sick of these wars?
But Congressman, are you open to the idea that there could be intelligence that is?
Oh, there could be. Just like how there was intelligence showing that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Remember that? Remember that Coca-Cola classic line? I mean, what went wrong? Come on, somebody say something. It's not like we never found them. It's not like it was one big, beautiful lie. It's not like we destabilized an entire region. It's not like, we've been lied to before. But it's okay. It's okay. It's like that infamous meme from the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Just as all the guys are getting ready to hang up by the neck by the nooseman, the guy looks at the other guy and says, first time.
Is disclosed to you in this classified setting on Tuesday that could justify this? Or is any military action, in your view, war?
Well, I'm always open to new intelligence, but the procedure should have been that Congress was briefed before we decided to enter war and that we actually had a vote on it. You have Tulsi Gabbard, who just months ago, the director of intelligence, saying that was not the case. The reality is, and we should just speak openly, there are people who want regime change in Iran, and they are egging this president on to bomb. I hope cooler heads will prevail. We need to pass Thomas Massie and my war powers resolution to make it clear that we're not going to get further entrenched into the Middle East.
And Congressman Massie, it's interesting because you were talking about a part of the party you represent. The Secretary of State comes from a different part of that same party, as you know. And I did hone in on the question about intelligence and what it showed. He called it.
Listen. The United States has an antagonistic relationship with North Korea. They got the nukes. Hell, they got their nukes pointed at Seoul, South Korea. Now, listen. We could, in theory, and don't come after us, Kim, for saying this, we could, in theory, the U.S. and South Korea could do joint strikes. But you want to know why we don't? It's because Kimmy boy will be more than happy to push that red button. See, that's a deterrence. Now, if Iran did have them, if they did, they'd use them. But also the thing is, what we've noticed is that, China's got nukes, Russia's got nukes, and I don't see us bombing them. I don't see us bombing North Korea. And the thing is, a dangerous precedent was set under Barack Obama's administration. You see, because can you imagine in an alternate universe, and this is me being my biggest weakness. I'm too kind and I'm too idealistic, but maybe in an alternate scenario. And again, it probably wouldn't happen. But when Gaddafi was in charge of Libya, he abandoned his nuclear program. He was starting to talk to the USA. Could you imagine if there was actually follow through and Obama actually really did truly earn his Nobel Peace Prize, Truly earned it. Can you imagine? Hey, we don't have to nuke each other. We could de-escalate the need for countries to have weapons of mass destruction. But no, that's not what happened. A violent coup took over. He was brutally murdered, and then Libya turned into an open slave trade market. And then, of course, the next big thing that happened was that any country that saw it was like, oh, wow, if we actually do that, that could happen to us. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of ministers, prime ministers, tyrants and kings who all saw that and said, yeah, we're not going to do that. That's called a no bueno. Just throwing it out there. So when we talk about intelligence here, it's not like the CIA ever got anything wrong. It's not like our intel would ever purposely mislead us. It's not like we'd actually, screw the American people right up the wazoo.
An ambition to weaponize. Weaponization ambition. That's different than they're making a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
But are you open to intelligence and persuasion here?
I'm open as well. But look, in the first Iraq war, the second Iraq war, and the war in Afghanistan, Congress first got the briefings. Congress met and debated. It should have been declarations of war, but at least they did an authorization of use of military force. We haven't had that. This has been turned upside down, this process.
Well, you heard from Mitch McConnell, the former Republican leader, the senator, say it was a bad week for the isolationists. He was talking about Tucker Carlson and he was talking about Steve Bannon. Do you think
it's not a bad week for isolationists? Okay. Now, look, I know there's a lot of people who voted for Trump, and you know what? Look, perhaps I am not as aggressive or angry at certain people. I have people I'm angry with. I do. But here's the thing. Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, everybody that's been speaking out, who at least supported Trump, but now are calling him out for this BS war with Iran. Let's all work together. Get your people together, Dave Smith. Tucker Carlson, get your people together. I'll get my people together. We'll all work together, left, right, everybody, to be against this war. And yesterday, I released a video of my 2020 visit in Japan, right? I want to pause here for a second. I'll play the rest of the video. I'll cease my pausing. All right. I played my video that I released it out there to the public of my visit to the Hiroshima Peace Museum in 2020. If you haven't seen it yet, it's available. It's now available to the public. Please share it far and wide. I posted it on our social media as well. It's not for the faint of heart. Now, most of the video, there's no narration because back then, as I feel now, I didn't feel a need to narrate in there. The artifacts and testimonials and pictures speak for themselves. This isn't a joke anymore. This war can escalate and go further and further to the point of no return. Dare I say it? We probably could be at the point of no return. It doesn't have to be this way. Because once those nukes drop, that's it. Let's continue on.
That the president is making a choice here, or is he trying to have it both ways? Both saying, I'm going to please the hawks of the party by bombing, but then I'm going to say I want a peace deal and make the isolationists happy by saying, I'm not committing to anything more than one and done.
Well, I'll concede this. It was a good week for the neocons in the military-industrial complex who want war all the time. I wouldn't call my side of the MAGA base isolationists. We are exhausted. We are tired from all of these wars, and we're non-interventionists. I mean, this was one of the promises. I mean, are you going to call President Trump's campaign an isolationist campaign? What he promised us was we would put America first. And I think there are still voices in this administration. You've still got J.D. Vance. You've still got Tulsi Gabbard. You still, RFK Jr., you still got calmer heads that could prevail.
They were not persuasive in this case, clearly.
Well, somebody was persuasive. AIPAC is very persuasive. For instance, the Israeli lobby in Congress. If you look at my colleagues' feeds now, they all look the same. They're all tweeting the same message that we've got to support Israel and we've got to do this. My question is, does 3 bombings and we're done with Iran's nuclear ambitions? Is that the 2 weeks to slow the spread of 2025? Is this, we were told 2 weeks to slow the spread then. Now we're told it's just going to take 3 bombings. But what happens when Israel gets bombed again? Mm-hmm. Is Trump going to sit by and say, no, we're not going to further engage in this war?
I tried to get answers from the secretary on that question. But when you say the pro-Israel lobby, AIPAC, do you see a difference between Israel's interests and American interests?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, Iran, the reality is they don't have a missile that can reach the United States. They're not near to getting a missile that can reach the United States. I think this what has happened, what has transpired this week has been planned for months. This administration and maybe even the administration prior to that said, you go in and soften them up, take out their air defense capabilities, and then we'll send in the big bombers.
So, Congressman Khanna, I know you have raised objections on this program in the past about Israel's operations in Gaza for how it has conducted that.
Hold on, Democrats. No. I don't want to hear any of this crap about the Democrats stopping anything in Gaza when protesters were kicked out and the liberals booed them, okay? I don't want to hear that. Sorry, I said I wouldn't pause, but pause.
War against Hamas. That was a different context. But now you very well may be asked to provide more weaponry to Israel to defend itself. Do you oppose that as well?
Oh boy, here you go. Watch this wiggle and worm happen in real time.
Well, first, let me just say that it's a totally unfair smear to call people isolationists. The vast majority of Americans who don't want more war and want diplomacy. Diplomacy and engagement is not isolationism. But look, on Israel, I have supported aid and support defensively. And even the War Powers Resolution says that if Iran is striking Israel, we can provide defense so that Israel isn't hit. What I opposed was giving Israel offensive weapons to go kill more people in Gaza. I think that war needs to end. But I think the bottom line, Margaret, is what have we achieved here? We're going to push Iran to now be like Pakistan or North Korea, go in and try to develop a nuclear bomb covertly. We have put more American troops at risk. We're going to spend more resources going and getting more entrenched in the Middle East. And we've created a generation of hate. It's like, can this country learn?
Yeah.
We keep voting for people for president who say we're not going to get into war. And then they keep getting pushed by the Washington Beltway to get us into this mess.
Of course, gotta love how to see how corporate media is dragging us into this. And of course, this recently came out as now there's new strikes happening. New strikes as Israel hits Iran's capital city. Shout out to Case Study QB.
All right, breaking this morning, Israel carried out new strikes in Tehran, hitting a wider range of targets than before, maybe signaling an effort to destabilize parts of the regime. CNN was there, saw it firsthand. The targets included Iran's Evin prison that houses political prisoners and journalists, also a headquarters of a branch of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. As this was happening, CNN's Fred Pleiken and his team, they were on the ground there. Our crew raced to safety, then filed this report after getting the all clear.
So we've just witnessed a massive airstrike here on the area of sort of northern central Tehran. We actually went downstairs into a shelter once we heard planes overhead, and then we heard explosions. You can see now the sky over the northwest of Tehran is completely filled with smokes. It seemed to us as though it were several really, really strong impacts that took place. And if we look over to the left here, you can see the smoke seems to be emanating from that area. That's more towards the west of Iran, the sort of northwest of Tehran, of the Iranian capital. This is the first time since we've been here that we've seen a heavy airstrike like this in the fairly central part of the city.
So, look, big major city, new strikes. What could go wrong? More civilian deaths, more enragement, more engagement, more fury, more missiles.
So we're only going to be able to be up here for not much longer, but this is definitely something that I wouldn't say is unprecedented, but it's definitely something that we haven't seen in the past couple of days. Coming, of course, exactly after the Trump administration struck those nuclear...
Gotta pull this out here. Hey, Lindsey Graham was finally able to bust a nut. Yeah, I know. Thank you for the Rumble rant. We do appreciate it, especially as we are on the cusp of World War III. You know what you need right now? Eric Hoos. You know what you need right now? You need prayer. And this is what's happening right now. Again, hey, unlike Piers Morgan, I got little birds that whisper in my ear. You know, I got little people who think, right now, Trump's White House faith office right now. Here, hey, nothing against prayer, but like, look, right now you guys need to be praying that, I don't know, reason hits the president's brain.
Yes. We just thank you right now, Lord, from the east, the west, the north, and the south. You will shake America with your power and your glory. We cancel every assignment of the enemy. This nation was birthed to be one nation under God, and we are standing on the soil of the White House, and we are declaring your word. Every place that our foot will trod, you will give it to us. And we are taking the land. We thank you, oh Lord. You have brought us to the kingdom for a time such as this, and this is the time. And so we declare right now from the capital of our nation that America will come back to God. We will come back to God. Nothing will stop this nation. And we speak right now by the authority of heaven. You told us to bring heaven to earth. Heaven is being released.
That's not how it works. This is not how it works. It's not how it works, man. That's not how prayer works. But it's all right. It's all right. When the nukes drop, just accept it. Okay, folks? No need to run. Once the missiles drop, just, hey, try and do a cool pose if you can.
Nuclear facilities, and the Iranians are vowing revenge for that. Of course, the Israelis also continuing their air campaign. And right now, as you can see, the skies over Tehran filled with thick black smoke. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Tehran.
You can hear it in Fred's voice how unsettling it is to go through one of those airstrikes. We are wishing he and his crew the best. Let's get right to CNN's Nick Robertson, who is in Tel Aviv. Nick, what are you learning about these strikes that Fred saw firsthand?
Yeah, unprecedented force is the language that Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, is using about the strikes on Tehran. Also, the IDF giving details of the different regime targets that they're hitting there, and many of them are sort of to do with internal security. The Evin jail, that's where the maximum security, most feared, if you will, political prisoners are held, feared by the regime. Of course, political prisoners are held. The Besiege, which is a volunteer paramilitary that supports the IRGC, they have been very effective for the regime at anti-regime demonstrations, beating protesters off the streets, detaining people. So what it appears that Israel is signaling that it's targeting are elements that would keep the population of Iran under control. And that was sort of doubled down on in a post put out by the foreign minister here, Gideon Saar, who said, Iran, we've told you to stop targeting civilians, and then shows a picture of the doors being blown off at that Evin prison, saying, this is our response. The implication seems to be that you're targeting your own civilians and we're helping give them freedom from you. It appears to indicate.
Now, as much as we want to sit here and get brain dead by CNN, first of all, I think it's my social responsibility to at least encourage and enlighten you guys to know, just, hey, these strikes weren't the job that, going to be a job well done. I want to pull up this video from Rachel Bevins.
But here's the thing. I don't think that this attack was meant to do the job, so to speak, in terms of wiping out any enriched uranium that Iran has. I think that this attack was meant to provoke a response, because for weeks now we've heard Iran warn about their response to Israel, their response to the U.S., right? It's no secret that the U.S. not only has troops in the region, but has around 40,000 American troops stationed all around Iran, particularly in at least 19 military bases, and they have just become sitting ducks in World War III. And I would argue that the U.S. wants a response from Iran, because if you think about it, if now the U.S. carries out this initial attack, you've got Trump saying, hey, we didn't want Iran to be able to create a nuclear weapon. We targeted these nuclear sites to, eliminate their capabilities and so on and so forth. That to the average American may check out, right? They may look at that and they may say, hey, yeah, we saw that Iran was a danger, not a danger to the American people or the U.S. homeland, but anyway. But they look at what the Trump administration is saying and they're like, hey, you know what? Maybe you had a point. Y'all had more information than we as the public had. But then what happens when Iran responds? What happens if they are to carry out attacks targeting U.S. military bases in the region? And then what happens if American soldiers die? They're now coming home in body bags. And the Trump administration is able to look at that and to say, well, that's Iran's fault, right? Now we have to attack them again. And then they are able to expand their attacks on Iran further. and the war escalates more and more. Because we have to remember that the US establishment has been planning for war with Iran for years now.
Yep. And I also want to address this. The fact that we have now clear engagement with not only Israel bombing the capital city of Iran, but also Iran launching missiles at U.S. bases, it is inevitable that fighter jets from Saudi Arabia and all the other adjacent bases that are under U.S. control, if they're not scrambling right now, they probably are to hit more target areas, perhaps more potential nuclear facilities, power plants, military bases, government buildings. But then again, once those strikes happen, Iran will have to strike back. Now, there is a counter to this. Of course, it's always important to hear both sides of the aisle, both perspectives and points of view, because there is this. This right now is from Fox News. I want to pull up this video here, so that way it's available for everyone to have at their disposal. Let's play this.
Remember, we learned from Israeli sources over the past 2 days that ahead of the American strikes that took out, in part, these nuclear facilities in Iran, there was an effort by the Israelis to take out the air defense systems of the Iranian regime, not only to clear the path for American bombers, but also to make it easier to put this pressure on the regime, the political leadership that's left in Tehran, understanding that once you take out the majority of their nuclear program and once their ballistic missile program is decimated, all they have left is turning to their proxies in the region. And over the past year and a half, amid the Israeli campaign against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, the American and Israeli campaign against the Houthis in Yemen, Israeli strikes against Hamas and Islamic Jihad inside Gaza, and ongoing limited attacks against Iranian proxies, these Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, their proxy ability has also been decimated. And so they're running out of buttons to push. And so they can still launch these counterattacks as they have done today, but they don't have an unlimited supply of missiles. And both the Israelis and the Americans know that.
It's easy to say that. However, remember, the Iranian foreign minister went to Russia to seek consultation with Putin. Now, again, anything can happen. We could speculate as much as we want. We can speculate, but I'm willing to bet they'll also be reaching out to other adjacent neighboring allies, potentially even China as well, to speak about, hey, what to do about the current situation at hand, especially in regards to the fact that once those missiles are done, okay, well, will the bombing still continue? Because how much more bombing needs to be done? Is Israel and the United States going to be continuously bombing Iran till it's like a larger version of Gaza? Exactly how are you going to maintain order and control? Is it just to cause absolute anarchy? I mean, there's always going to be a response back. If there's not missiles, there'll always be another way to respond back. There's always a way to respond back, especially in a fight. And when you fight, hey, you got to use everything to your advantage. When you're in a street fight, everything is a weapon. There's no such thing as an illegal move, especially if you're fighting for your life. And that means it's going to get dirty and ugly. That also means if the United States has to put boots on the ground, potentially, how do you occupy and control that? Because Iran is, being generous here, maybe 3 or 5 times the size of Iraq. It's a whole other different ball game. It's a whole other animal. And occupying a country that size requires, a 1,000,000-man army, which we don't have. In World War II, we were able to do that. Occupy Germany, Japan, or West Germany, to be more precise, Japan and Italy. I mean, that's what we were able to do, but we only could do it for so long. You see, when a nation, especially like the United States, or any empire, chooses to occupy a territory or piece of land for so long, it eventually becomes pretty expensive, especially continuous wars. I always encourage my viewing audience to watch the podcast series Fall of Civilization podcast, which is a fantastic story about the rise and fall of many different empires throughout the world, be it on the continent of Africa, be it on the continent of Europe, or anywhere in the continent of Asia. But see, the stories are all shockingly familiar and have the same ending. The empires rise up, and then they have a slow, terrible, declining end. They started off with a large roar and ended with a whimper. This is going to bleed us dry financially. This is going to bleed us dry in regards to people. Enough people have died in this conflict, yet this administration lied to its voting base. Yes, it did. They said that we weren't going to go to war with Iran. Trump made it his whole identity. I remember in 2016 when he was constantly yelling and speaking down to his Republican challengers during the 2016 primary. And that was actually bold ground at the time, saying that the war in Iraq was a big mistake. And it was. Same thing like a war with Iran. Big mistake. Donald Trump, even when he was out of office, was criticizing Biden and his administration. But see, the thing is, it's all a game. It's all like from a script from WWE. You know, you have your heel and your face. The face is always that person you cheer for, and then your heel is the person you like to boo, you like to hate. And Democrats and Republicans have been playing that role for a very long time. You know, you have your favorite politician, then all of a sudden they do something, you're like, oh, I hate that guy. And then you like another person. Then all of a sudden, the guy you hated, you like him again. Why do you think we keep electing these jagoffs? They have it figured out. They dumb down our food. They give us dumb news. At least the people of Idiocracy, they have an excuse. At least they have a redemption arc. What's our redemption arc? We're living in real life, and we keep electing these clowns over and over again. Maybe we are the dumb. These dumb politicians are leading us into World War III because we, the American people, have been dumbed down by the very same system that they put upon us to control us. Clip this. Share it far and wide. We've been dumbed down by our media and our politicians so they can lead us to World War III. That's pretty dumb. And these same politicians and Republican influencers, and yes, I know I'm even throwing these liberal influencers too, who keep on posting, oh, Kamala and Hillary were right. They would have led us to war anyways. They were going to do it anyways. Hillary Clinton, she laughed her ha 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 laugh when Gaddafi died. We came, we saw, he died. Well, what about all those Kamala events where you had activists and organizers screaming at the Democrats, hey, stop the genocide in Palestine, and they were booed and kicked out by the latte-drinking liberals? You know, these influencers, these politicians who are all for war, especially those Democrat politicians who are all for war in Ukraine, you know what? Do what the Roman senators did. You know, the dumb ones, okay? But at least those dumb senators died alongside their men. Yes, they led them to slaughter, but my goodness, at least they fought. You know, that's saying a lot. Saying a lot. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. More from the jagoffs at CNN.
This potential shift towards regime change. And I think another note that we've heard that's sort of on track with that, or certainly can be taken in this context. We've heard from the finance minister here, Bezalel Smotrich, who is a very hardline nationalist member of Benjamin Netanyahu's government, just spoke about the three most important targets: the nuclear targets, the weapons targets, missiles targets, and the proxies in the region. And that's something we haven't heard before, indicating that perhaps the targeting of these is almost complete. Is this a signaling by some of the sort of close officials within the Prime Minister Netanyahu's government, an indication that they think they're getting to the end of their targeting cycle? It's not clear, but it is clearly shifting. Not just the nuclear sites that were hit today, not just the missile storage sites that were hit today, but an element to give the Iranian people greater freedom from their leadership.
Such important nuance.
Also, I want to acknowledge a super chat from Brad Gilbert, who tipped $5 Canadian. Thank you so much. All wars are bankster wars. This is a manufacturer crisis for both sides to sell to their specific audiences to make their banksters more bank. Get a citizen, get a CBDCs. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Brad Gilbert, for the YouTube super chat. We also, let me acknowledge something else here too. First super chat I ever done anywhere. Can't take it with me. Thanks for all you do, my friend. From Reno Drone Zero. Well, first of all, Hardlens Media would not exist without all of you. In fact, let's do a little short commercial break here. Because guess what? You know, Hardlens Media would not exist without all you lovely, beautiful people. So, hey, shut up for a minute, everybody, before the world gets nuked. Everybody, listen, be quiet. You want to be free? Then have some freedom coffee, because it'll punch you in the face. That's right. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Well, now's your shot. 1775 starter kit just dropped. 1,000 units. Only 1,000. They're out of their mind. You're getting that bold, dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check. That smooth, medium roast and Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy, laser focus, no crash out. That's right. Be crash proof. you watch Hard Lens Media, you're crash proof. All right. So there you go. All single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. We got enough plastic in us, especially us guys in our sacks. All right. We don't have. We want to have gold in our sacks, not plastic. That'll get the ladies. A frother strong enough to stir your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. And hey, guess what? A black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. They are out of their mind. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble in the Jungle, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. So go to 1775coffee.com/studio. and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bowl beans, a clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. So if you believe in freedom, well, you better get ready. All of you better get ready for some 1775 coffee. And if you don't like it, guess what? I'll fight you in the streets. That's a Kit Cabello guarantee. All right, there you go. That's 1775 coffee right there. All right. Also, we also have some Rumble rants here. Let me acknowledge these Rumble rants here before the bombs drop. So let's talk about it. From Eric Hoos, who says, read Collapse by Jared Diamond. And I wanted a woke nuclear apocalypse. Well, sometimes you just don't get what you want, Eric. Sometimes you don't get what you want. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Maybe sometimes it's going to be great, sometimes it won't be. I'll let you decide, okay? So there you go. But now let's go ahead and move on.org. Move on.org to the rest of the segment right here. More from CNN.
Pointing out
And again, this is about recent airstrikes that Israel has done on the capital city of Iran.
these new strikes in Tehran. Nick Robertson in Tel Aviv for us this morning. Thank you, Nick. Sarah?
All right. Joining us now, CNN Global Affairs analyst Kim Dozier and retired General Wesley Clark, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. First to you, General Clark. This morning, Israel says it's striking at the heart of Tehran. That's how they put it, hitting regime targets, Evin prison, which holds political prisoners of Iran. Does this attack seem to be shifting the war towards Israel pushing for regime change instead of just concentrating on eradicating Iran's nuclear facilities?
Absolutely right. That's exactly what they're doing. I think President Trump probably got word of it yesterday, where he tweeted out the hint about regime change. There's more to be done. They're going to have to go after regional Basij headquarters, police stations, and other things. There are groups inside Iran and outside who would push and try to follow through on the regime change, but they're cautious because previous efforts at regime change by these internal groups haven't succeeded. The Basij have been really brutal, really effective. It's hard to communicate now from outside into Iran. So there's more to be done by the Israelis if their aim is regime change.
General Clark alluded to this, Kim. Trump is talking about regime change on social media this morning after all of his cabinet members had said, look, this is only about annihilating Iran's nuclear program. I mean, this is the slippery slope that a lot of people were concerned about, and whether the United States would get involved. What would it take?
Well, he may simply be signaling to the supreme leader of Iran that, look, we held the Israelis back from killing you before. We said we know exactly where you are. We could decide to go through with this if you don't come to the negotiating table, or if you strike back in a deadly way against U.S. troops spread throughout the Gulf region. The problem with this threat is that the Ayatollah doesn't think of getting assassinated in the same way that a Western leader would. A martyrdom is a key tenet in...
All right, and hold on. Speaking of which, here's the thing. As it stands right now, at least in the early stages of this conflict, what did the Ayatollah tell his military government? Hey, prepare yourselves in case anything happens to me. He's fine with it. All right. So that means should this war escalate further, taking out the Ayatollah may not be, or, shake the foundations of the government there as much as the United States will look at it. Because hold on, I want to pull up another video here. because it's in regards, and again, huge shout out to Case Study QB, who is wrongly being censored. There's a major update right here.
First and foremost, of course, concerned about any casualties to American forces at this forward operating base, provided that there are no casualties of U.S. troops, and if what this appears to be, which was a symbolic and telegraphed attack, is in fact the case, this is an on-ramp towards vigorous diplomacy. But it can't be diplomacy from a position of weakness. If we're trying to get Iran to surrender its nuclear program and cease funding terrorist forces in the region, then we need to credibly signal that we will strike their oil and gas fields if necessary, that we would...
This is a Democrat speaking, by the way.
...take out the Ayatollah if necessary, and that we will continue to provide support to the Iranian people for organizing, labor strikes, freedom of communications, etc. We have to negotiate from strength.
How likely do you think it is that the regime would do direct negotiations with the United States?
What option do they have at this point? They are backed into a corner. For decades, Iran relied on its 6 terror armies in Gaza and Lebanon and Syria and Iraq and Yemen to basically be its proxy deterrent forces. Well, Israel has cut down 4 out of those 6 forces and severely neutralized the other 2. And Israel and the United States together have achieved aerial dominance over Iran. The regime's legitimacy, I think, is on tenterhooks right now at home. They need an off-ramp.
This is a Democrat, by the way, in case you don't believe me. Again, pro-war Democrat Representative Oxen Kloss on Iran, Israel. See, now here's the thing. I hope Thomas Massie is successful. By the way, here are the people who have so far were the original co-sponsors with him and Ro Khanna's War Powers Resolution Act. All right. You have Representative Don Bayer, Representative Caesar. You got Representative AOC herself, okay. Representative Doggett. You got Chuy Garcia from Illinois. You got Val Hoyle. You got Pramila Jayapal, Summer Lee, McGovern, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Presley, Ramirez, Rashida Tlaib, Vasquez, and Democrat from Senator in the great state of New York, Tim Kaine, where he introduced his companion legislation. Nobody else has signed on yet, but there's a couple more people. But, remember, everyone in Congress has an AIPAC, a babysitter.
From where they're at right now, the United States should extend a hand, but should also have a closed fist.
Extend a hand, closed fist. So, extending a hand, closed fist. So, in other words, a fist can be argued to be a hand, and bam, bam, bam. I want peace. Give me peace. Give me peace. Right? Because that works well. I mean, a fist bump, like, hey, maybe you want to do a fist bump. We'll decide.
Some Democrats have been critical of the president for moving forward with military action without getting prior approval from Congress. Do you believe he should have? Do you believe he needed to? Many Republicans and others point to actions President Obama took to strike at Osama bin Laden without getting prior congressional approval.
I believe President Trump's actions were illegal, and that legal argument is a second dimension of debate from the strategic argument that we were just discussing. One can broadly agree with the thrust of strategy thus far and still disagree with the legality of the president's actions. The AUMF from 2001, his inherent powers of commander-in-chief as commander-in-chief.
Little Iggy, get up and go see the White House counselor, like right now. Go see the White House counselor. Tell her what you just said. Any tips on how to get my fist a girl? Are you asking any tips on how to get my fist girlfriend, or are you saying how to fist my girlfriend? Is that what you're asking? Before, think about that. Now, when the nukes drop, I'm reading your comment live on air as a serious program is happening, and the nukes could drop, and this will be your last comment ever to be read. Shame on you. Little Iggy asking for tips and advice. But if you got tips, go ahead, right in the comment section below. Guys and gals, I'll be inclusive. Go ahead. Give Iggy some tips, right? But still, little Iggy, go see the White House counselor. Tell her what you just said.
in chief, any self-defense powers that he might claim, none of them are credible in this case. This was a proactive strike against a sovereign nation, and he needed congressional authority for it. Congress now needs to act. We need to introduce new war powers resolutions that more tightly scope the commander-in-chief's latitude in the Middle East.
Yes, because what could go wrong? What could go wrong? But also adding something else here, because we have to add in some common sense, real common sense here. This is from Representative Thomas Massie, who also showed up on CNN.
And the notion that this isn't an act of war, I find ludicrous. This is a hot war. There are two nations, Israel and Iran, trading volleys of missiles every night, every day, and we're co-belligerent now in this war.
I mean, the vice president went on to say that they needed to act now because there was a narrow window. And if they waited, it could have been too late. They needed to stop the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Do you not share that concern?
No, I don't share that concern. But I have another concern, and that is that 3 bombings to neutralize Iran may turn out to be the 2025 version of 2 weeks to slow the spread. This could turn into a protracted, prolonged engagement. And I'm here to represent the base of the MAGA party that got Trump elected. Most of us were tired of the wars in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, and we were promised that we wouldn't be engaging in another one. Yet here we see this happening, and there's the president and the administration say, "Oh, we're done. We've had our little bombing, and now this is over." But what happens if this drags on between Israel and Tel Aviv gets pummeled by Iran? Is President Trump going to say we're going to sit by and not do anything in that instance? I'm leery of this given everything that's happened before.
Exactly, and we should be. But there is some hope, especially as we'll probably find out later tonight what actually happens. And unfortunately, as much as I would like for there to be immediate peace, there does seem to be some rallies happening against the military strikes. So let's go ahead and pull up this video here. Hey, some protesters are showing up. How much you want to bet that it's under 75,000? Drastically under 75,000.
Group of protesters showing their animosity against the Trump administration's decision to attack Iran.
The area has already seen dozens of protests over recent weeks over the ICE raids happening across our area. Eyewitness News reporter Tim Pulliam spoke with those demonstrating tonight about what the attack means to them.
The same government that couldn't beat the resistance in Iraq. The same government that couldn't beat the resistance in Vietnam.
Their voices echoed the blunt messages on their signs.
Not for wars and occupation. Not for wars and occupation.
Oh, God. Hey, where's that Walmart heiress when you need him, huh? Hey, Walton heiress. Hey, start twerking and shaking that money right now. Y'all worried about no King's March on July 4th. This is pathetic. Come on.
Demonstrators chastising President Trump's decision to bomb Iran.
I'm Palestinian. I know that any acts of war, acts of aggression, it brings nothing but grief and destruction to our communities.
Noor is with the grassroots movement, Party for Socialism and Liberation, is one of several groups demonstrating Sunday outside the Wilshire Federal Building in Westwood against the backdrop of armed Marines.
Hey, before the nukes drop, it's good to see you again, Black Zen. Look at me. Now I'm the White House counselor now. Black Zen, him and I are both students and graduates from Captain Benjamin Sisko's class. Federation history. X. Good to see you, Black Zen. Tell the audience who you're a graduate from, man. Full honors, too, by the way. Full honors.
Marines.
Donald Trump, you can't hide. Donald Trump, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. We charge you with genocide.
The site has been a touch point for protesters in recent weeks amid the Trump administration's ongoing ICE raids. And now it's a rallying cry for peace in the Middle East, not war.
It's contradictory to say that a bombing of a nation is peaceful. This is going to potentially start a much larger war that's not only putting others at risk in other nations.
The Trump administration saying Sunday that it's not at war with Iran. Rather, it took decisive action to destroy the country's nuclear program when B-2 stealth bombers were used to attack the country's nuclear facilities. Demonstrators believe this conflict will cost American lives.
Whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, are wasting our resources on wars overseas that most people do not support. And frankly, it's going to be the working class, black and brown people in this country who are going to be sent off to fight those wars that do nothing but load the pockets of billionaires.
The group says it will organize more demonstrations like this one in the coming days. Tim Pulliam, ABC 7, Eyewitness News.
Thank you. Anti-war demonstrators rallied in other major cities today. In New York, dozens of people gathered in Times Square to voice their opposition to the U.S. military action. And in Washington, a group of veterans joined a large crowd in front of the White House gates. Protesters held signs reading, "Remember Iraq, no more wars based on lies."
No more wars based on lies. So what can we take away from all of this? Well, now it's going to be a back and forth fight. It is inevitable not to think that the United States is going to be stuck paying for this war now. We are now an active combatant between Israel and Iran. There's no easy way out of this now. We effectively, the United States, with our own aircraft, with our own pilots, struck 3 target areas on Saturday. And now, in turn, in response, Iran is striking back at our bases. And even today, right now, Israel has struck the capital city of Iran. There is no way out of this now. I mean, unless there's immediate ceasefire and diplomatic talks. And when I say immediate ceasefire, I'm talking about a ceasefire in Gaza, in the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iran. United States, Israel also stop. Everybody stop shooting. A peace has to be achieved. Something must be done. There's a point of no return, but already we're seeing people saying, oh, more U.S. people. You have people cheering. You have the diehard Trump people saying, like, no, we want this war. We want this war to happen. It's all about oil and control. It's all about absolute power. And yet you have lawmakers right now. You only have a handful that are really trying to do a war powers resolution. And now Trump, I hate to tell this to you, buddy, but you just can't punch somebody in the mouth and think that they'll just take it. But hey, you have wonderful suck-ups like this, J.D. Vance. Who writes this? Who writes this? For everybody to see. Trump is not dumb like past U.S. leaders. Okay, same guy who likes to eat McDonald's. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has pushed back against comparisons between his country's airstrikes on Iran and previous American wars in the Middle East, claiming that this time Washington's actions are truly limited and rooted in national security objectives, not a drive for regime change. I've heard this before. In an interview with NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday, Vance emphasized, we're not at war with Iran. Well, gee, Iran didn't get the memo. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program. Well, that means you're at war with Iran. Describing the overnight strike as a very precise, very surgical operation that allegedly dismantled Tehran's nuclear capabilities, responding to concerns that the United States could be drawn into another prolonged conflict, Vance said the difference lies in leadership. I certainly emphasize Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglement, yeah, in the Middle East. And that's what we want to call it, an entanglement. Ask Will Smith how he feels about the word entanglement. Hey, wait a minute. Let's have democracy in the chat. This could be our last democracy in the chat. Now that you heard J.D. Vance saying that we've just had nothing but entanglements in the Middle East, how do you feel? Type 1 for, oh, that's fine. That's good. It's all good. It's fine. It's just an entanglement. Type 2, I feel like Will Smith's dying on the inside when his wife said that to him. It's all an entanglement. That's all it is. We had an entanglement. 25 years of entanglements. Not engagements, not wars. It's nothing but entanglement. I wonder how depressing the number 2 will be in the live stream chat. I wonder how many people will type the number 2 in the live stream chat. I wonder, do you ever wonder? And of course, and by the way, just want to just read this Rumble rant here. Pete Hexes says, I named this operation after my wife's lover, Midnight Hammer. Correction, Eric. The real original Midnight Hammer was the night at the Pelosi's. For those of you who remember, put a laughing emoji in the chat. That's if you remember. Remember, I said if you remember. That's all an entanglement. It's all an entanglement. That's all it ever was. It was just an entanglement. Just a misunderstanding, a series of misunderstandings. But continuing on with the article at hand before us, it's all an entanglement. Don't worry. However, President Trump appeared to leave the door open to regime change at Tehran. In a post on Truth Social later in the day, it's not politically correct to use the term regime change. Tulsi, where are you at? If the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be regime change? MIGA. JD Vance, man, why would you say something so stupid? It was pretty bold of you to say this, but we're not seeking it out. But look, it seems to me we're gonna have another entanglement. Vance also echoed Trump's repeated warnings to Tehran against retaliation in any form, calling it the stupidest thing in the world and reaffirming that the U.S. would respond in overwhelming force. Trump has faced criticism from lawmakers over lack of congressional authorization, but Vance defended the legality of the strike, arguing that the president has the authority to prevent the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Moscow has criticized the Iranian WMD claim, drawing comparisons and justification used by then U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell in the lead up to the 2003 Iraq invasion. Many today feel a strong sense of deja vu. Deja vu indeed. And we all have that deja vu feeling. Because what could go wrong as we have continuous airstrikes? All right? Continuous airstrikes and bombings, missile strikes. When is it that things will end? When will there be a stop? And I also want to pull up something else here as well, because I think it's important for us just to remember all of this, while we are still here, while we're still hanging out, having some good fun, before everything just comes to an abrupt end. And I don't want things to come to an abrupt end, but everything has a beginning, middle, and end, including humanity. But there's now talk of impeachment. So let's talk of this impeachment, right? If people want to talk about impeachment of Donald Trump. Well, yes, Congress can do it. It would be Donald Trump's maybe potential third impeachment, but there's a big problem. First of all, Republicans control the majority of the House as well as the Senate. And even if impeachment were to go through as the House, the Senate is the judge and jury. I mean, they're the ones that will decide, whether or not Trump needs to be removed. Donald Trump, unfortunately, unless the American people, 100 million strong, start calling up their U.S. senators and House representatives right now, there ain't going to be no impeachment. Everybody in Congress is an AIPAC babysitter. That includes even Democrats, too. That's including the U.S. senators, Democrats and Republicans. There's no way this thing is going to be wrapped up in a nice little package and everyone thinks that it's going to be fine and dandy. That's not how things work, people. That's not how it'll ever work. And we're stuck with leaders right now that are now saying, now that we've done these surgical strikes, Iran should not strike back. Well, Iran has struck back. And in turn, we got to respond back. And in turn, Iran's going to strike back. And then Israel's going to strike back. And then Iran's going to strike back at Israel. It's only a matter of time before it just gets to the point of, all right, when do the big guns come in? When do boots come on the ground? Are we really prepared to go all the way for this? 6 months into his presidency, and more wars have intensified under Donald Trump. Donald Trump wanted to beat Obama, Obama has deported more migrants. Obama did more drone strikes. And I think Donald Trump is going to succeed in that. And not to mention, don't forget, Obama, after Bush, led us from 2 wars to 7. Trump, tic-tac-toe, 3 in a row. You beat Obama. You're going to do it. And you're going to lead us into all these big, horrific wars. It's going to cost the American people an arm and a leg. It's going to cost them their sons and daughters. It's going to cost us our treasury. And it could very well lead to the collapse of our nation. I had my co-hosts on, my special guest co-host to be more precise, Nick Thompson, Larry Sharp, Keaton from Due Dissidence. What could go wrong? And the answer is a lot. A lot can go wrong. And while we're sitting here wondering what will happen next, it's abundantly clear that this administration is going to get what it wants. And that is, again, live from the Situation Room, there's potential now, talk of the United States now doing more strikes into Iran. So the bombings will continue. This was not on my bingo card. I'm pretty sure all of you feel the same way too. And with that, we'll cover the rest of this on tomorrow morning's show at 9 a.m. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and supporting Hard Lens Media. I want to thank all of you for joining me for this special quick live stream. Just when I thought I had a day off, they pull me back in. Just when I think I could have some time off, they pull me back in. And just when I think I could chill out and relax, they pull me back in. But that's what happens. You know, sometimes there's no such thing as a day off. And in life, I've learned sometimes I do what I want to. Most of the time, I do what I have to. So without further ado, since I'm in charge of the ones and twos, if you want to help out Hard Lens Media, here we go. Here's our Linktree, Peachtree, Peachtree, here in the description box below. Here's a link to our YouTube channel, X account, Rumble, Kick, Patreon, Substack, Discord, Instagram. Please, if you want to help out the show, keep the lights on. We desperately need patron supporters. Be a patron supporter and keep the show on. Without all of you, we would not exist. We would not. We're very active on X. Yes, we also have Instagram and Facebook as well. Pinned here is a link to our GoFundMe, and we do appreciate any support that we can get for our GoFundMe. We have to raise at least up to $50,000 for our GoFundMe for our defense fund. Any donation does help. If you want to do a super chat or Rumble rant, please consider putting it into the GoFundMe, as it will help us build up our defense team and our defense fund. So any actions would be greatly appreciated, and we would be eternally grateful. So, folks, I think I want to end this on a high note. Why not end it on a high note? We got music by Jesse Jet. So please take good care of yourselves and each other. Keep your heads on a swivel. Drink water. I want to thank my moderators for keeping the chat, keeping peace in the chat. I see that we got Tina Mayberry, and you know what? Wait. Before we end the show, actually, you know what? I think I want to pull up somebody here who can actually bring in peace, who can actually really fight for the people, and more importantly, ensure to all of us that there is a chance for a better future, that we can live our lives in a better time. And who else can do that than none other than somebody who has the gift of communication, the gift of understanding, the gift of solidarity, the gift of actually saving the world. Oh my goodness, where there it is. Aha, thought I lost it there for a second. But hold on. So who else can bring peace to the world than somebody right now who, dare I say it, will get Iran, Israel, the United States, Russia, Ukraine at the table. Somebody who will capture your heart too.
The Assembly will now hear an address by Her Excellency. I invite her to address the Assembly.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm starting to feel a bit used.
Yes, right,
I
Tina.
think guys are only interested in me for my accent. Like, I literally cannot start talking to a guy without one of the first things them say to me is something like, "I'd marry you for your accent."
In a Mississippi minute.
Like, honey, yes, I know, I sound sweet like cornbread. But are you also prepared to deal with the fact that I am batshit crazy? I don't know if anybody's warned you about us Southern women, but if you piss us off, you better start praying and you better start running, because we'll kick your ass. And, like, just so you know, it's a package deal. You're getting all of it.
Yes, right.
Are you prepared to deal with that level of crazy just because you like the way I talk?
If it prevents World War III, you better believe it.
Thank you so much.
All right there, folks. All right, so we're going to end this on some music with Jesse Jet. I want to thank you guys and gals so much for tuning in. You know, what better way to end this all right here. I know I had a couple people reach out to me for some music, so please DM me if there is some music that I could play that won't get the channel struck or anything like that. But please take good care of yourselves and each other. And who knows, maybe tomorrow will be a bright and beautiful future. maybe tomorrow. And just when I thought I could have a day off, you know what? Something tells me, Kit, you're going to do an evening live stream. I never get a day off, even when I want one. Even when I want one. Even when I want one. But hey, I love working for you because it's you, the people, that make this show happen. Heartlands Media has been around for 8 years. And someday, for all the people who've been supporting us for our GoFundMe, I will find a way to repay you back. The link to our GoFundMe is in the description box below, pinned in the live stream chat as well. I'll find a way to pay you all back somehow, some way. I'll do it. Peace. Take care. And if you haven't checked out already, please check out our Hiroshima video. It's not for the faint of heart, but I do encourage it. Take good care, people. And see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Central sharp, or else.
And you don't stop. Just push through and you don't stop. Broken and bruised, you don't stop. Coughing up fluid, you don't stop. Alright, fresh from the mines that brought you King Midas. Sign of the times, call me Homo detritus. Karma's a beast and its fleas make a plague look childish. Are we home of the brave or the best or the brightest? None of the above, and my answer's as final as one wrong. Look at one of Brooklyn's finest. Now Barack was a real class act. Better walk to The Hague, so stylish, where he can perch on a warlord's throne. Made a little known Middle East drone violence. Buddy, they were logging mileage while you and your smartphone were both on silent. Too busy hailing Barack as a well-spoken token that prejudice was dead and America had woken up when all along our bigotry was thriving. In a rising red vitriolic tide so thick that it is binding, like a contract of slavery they gave us in writing. Loophole amendments that lay on their minds and then go into hiding, so they can legislate slaves to a 20-cent wage if they're on the inside. The road isn't long, it is wide, and there's not much winding. They just lead you to a lifetime of small crime, bring you back and put you in a line, doing sweatshop labor for a couple fucking dimes. And you can spend your whole life here being beaten by a staff of steroid gym rat white nationals. Do it all for Nike, buddy. Do it for the Capitol. Do it for the guards so they'll treat you like an animal. Do it when you're sick or you're sore because you have to. Do it so the prison shareholders can roll in their dough and remodel their bathrooms with walk-in showers that might be a little bit bigger than the cell where you spend 20 hours of your 24, maybe more. They don't count it anymore. They just need you well enough to move a product out the door. They just got a marble countertop and all new tile floors. Heated fucking seats on a bidet that you help them afford. But they won't lift a finger if your warden goes overboard. Makes your common area an unspoken COVID ward. Lets you intermingle like he hadn't really done before. Now there's a lot of pits dug up in the yard, all numbered, and he still won't tell you what the number's for. But it's gotta be a warning. And probably the kind that you might need thunder for. When the realization strikes, they've been grouping you tight and restricting your time outside. It won't take a genius to link it to all of the coughing that's keeping you up every night. So if you can't abide slaves, I'll state the case plain. A prisoner shares the same rights. And your tax dollars are lining the pockets of those who ensure that the luxuries of medicine and showers are consistently denied. And you can spend 8 years if you're black because you burned up a trash can, but you won't see any time if you rape when you're young and you're white. And in 5 years' time, that white rapist guy gets a job as a guard where he finds a new prey to dehumanize. And it's ingrained as a part of our system of justice so deeply that it's not scrutinized. And if we're talking capital punishment, all of these assholes with bludgeons who call themselves justice could probably be euthanized. Rather than giving them 70 humans to supervise, torture, and brutalize. Sensitivity training can't teach you the value of human life. It's a message that's basic. Our nature has shaped it and culture is born out of breaking it down and then seeing it crucified. I feel like I'm watching every day with exponentially more lucid eyes, till I'm drooling out my cheek and down my side, and my eyes are the dullest shade of overdose white. When just a dose of reality hits like an overdose might. It's a gross mentality that keeps this country going. Makes you wonder why we're keeping it alive. And we don't stop. Just push through and you don't stop. Coughing up fluid, you don't stop. Guards gang rape you and you don't stop. They take your commissary, you don't stop. Your mother's being buried, you don't stop. When nothing is forgiven, you don't stop. When life's not living, you don't stop. You just push through and you don't stop. Coughing up fluid, you don't stop. Guards gang rape you and you don't stop. Broken and bruised, you don't stop. They take your commissary, you don't stop. Your mother's being buried, you don't stop. When nothing is forgiven, you don't stop. When life's not living, you don't stop. You just push through, you don't stop. Coughing up fluid, you don't stop. Guards gang rape.